Welcome to From the Shed Ends with myself, TDOT, as always. Theo, how are you doing on a Friday evening?
Not bad, not bad. Really pleased it's Friday. Looking forward to the Premier League football this weekend. It's been a busy work week. So I'm going to, straight after this recording, I might crack open a beer and enjoy the evening. How are you doing?
Well, now you've mentioned beer, I'm straight behind you. Literally, as I said before, I'm going to Sainsbury's. That's on my shopping list to get a couple of bottles of red wine, beers for the weekend as well. Just stack up so I don't have to go out. But yeah, apart from that, I'm good. Positive week. Yeah, good just to look forward. I mean, I say positive, but the only thing about early kickoffs is it can ruin your weekend. So this positivity might be shut down by 2:00 on a Saturday, or depending on how tomorrow's game goes. But if you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe to it as well before you leave here, and make sure you give this video a thumbs up as well. And if you hit the Linktree link in the description, it will take you to all our podcast episodes, all our social accounts as well. Massive game tomorrow, Theo. Massive game tomorrow. Not even just because of the fact of where we are in the league and how our season's been going, but because it's Liverpool. And I think these games, more so than, a Fulham, which is our, as you said, I think a couple of weeks ago, it's like our derby, but it's not really not dressed up as an old firm derby. It's not a proper derby, but this feels like the rivalry between the two clubs over the last couple of seasons. This is a big game for us, regardless of where we are in the league. It's just more bragging rights, if anything. But what's your thoughts going into this game? We're going to get onto like predicted lineups and score lines after, but just in terms of the game, this is a big test for Graham Potter, but also for us as fans as well.
Yeah, like you said, this rivalry is massive, absolutely massive. Particularly, I think last year, you look back at the two cup finals in the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup final. So unlucky to lose those both on penalties, and then even the two league draws. Again, two games that we could have easily snatched a winner in. I felt. Reece James being wrongfully sent off, I felt, at Anfield in this fixture last season. But like you said, massive. It's really massive. I feel, obviously, as Chelsea fans, we know that we've been below average and if not very poor this season. But I think because Chelsea have been so poor and where we are in the league, I think it's masked in a way how poor Liverpool have been. I think they might be level with points on us, but with game in hand. But I think it's a huge opportunity for us to maybe win this game, overtake them in the league, gain some momentum. We got the win against Palace, the 1-0 win and the clean sheet. And I think this is the next stage now to go to Anfield, snatch 3 points, get some momentum and hopefully mount some kind of I was going to say title charge for a bit, but it's not going to be a title charge. Some kind of opportunity to, try to penetrate into the top 4. And talking about Liverpool, I feel like it's the perfect chance. I don't think our record at Anfield has been too good. I think we won under Tuchel a couple of seasons ago during a kind of COVID period. But other than that, it's been quite poor. And particularly Liverpool without Van Dijk, they look really vulnerable at the back. Konate and Matip, they look a bit shaky. This time last week, they were losing 3-0 to Brighton, and they look really atrocious in defence. I think Alisson, even a keeper that you'd always kind of back. I think it was against Wolves in the FA Cup, made a big blunder, which is very unlike him. So it seems like things just aren't really ticking for Liverpool. And it's kind of, as Chelsea fans, it just seems like our opportunity, maybe despite how poor we've been, but it could be an opportunity, like I said, to go there, get something out of the game and also build some momentum for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I think it's our game to lose. And I say that because, yes, we've been in bad form and, a lot of the fan base, including myself, have criticised the performances. But I just feel that Crystal Palace performance, the win that we got, should springboard us. The new signings, which we're going to talk about next week as well, they should bring a lot of positivity and give some of these players that potentially could be looking at the exit door very soon just something to maybe fight for, as in the Chelsea shirt as well. I think it's Jurgen Klopp's 1,000th game in charge, managerial tomorrow, so he's not going to want to lose it. But I also have a sneaky feeling, without looking at the records, I'm sure their 12:30 kickoff, like results when they kick off at 12:30, haven't been the best. I'm pretty sure over the last couple of seasons. So I'm clutching at straws. But I just think in terms of the performance, like you said, Liverpool haven't been playing the Liverpool way that we know. Yes, they've got injuries as well in terms of Diaz and Jota being out as well. Obviously, Van Dijk's a big one as well. But this is probably the best time to play them. And I say that because, like you said, our performance has probably masked their poor performance. And, you look at both of the clubs, a couple of seasons ago, they were the ones that you wanted to go and get the 3 points from. You struggled to get 3 points against Chelsea. You struggle at Liverpool at Anfield. It was a fortress at one point. But the tides change now. I think you look at Arsenal, you look at Newcastle, City. This is probably the best time to play Liverpool, in my opinion. I just think we have nothing to lose. Go in there trying to get the 3 points, and what's good about after this game is I think that obviously we're not in the FA Cup, so I think there's a 2-week break now for us after this game to go out. You don't want to go out on a defeat. You don't want to go off that Liverpool game, then not have a game for 2 weeks. Get that out. You want to, if you do want to defeat, you want to get it out of your system. So I think for the players as well, it's going to be important that they put in a good performance and try and end just this bad run of games. Back-to-back victories as well, clutching at straws again, but something that we haven't seen in a while. But I just going back to Graham Potter's press conference earlier on today, he didn't really give much away that we didn't know in terms of who's available, who's not. Obviously, earlier in the week, we tweeted about Reece James, Ben Chilwell being back on, in training, and N'Golo Kante as well. We knew that Ruben Loftus-Cheek was fit, but I think he was ill last week, even though he was on the bench, but he's still in contention to play. But just in terms of one key player that did come up in the press conference was Marc Cucurella, who, I mean, I've come on here and I've said before, I don't think he's playing as well as he is. And, the performances don't match up to the fee that we brought him in. He should be one of the best players under Graham Potter because he's worked for him before. But Graham Potter did come out and say today that Marc Cucurella has had problems on and off the field. Obviously, pressure coming into a new club, adapting to that, but off-field stuff as well, which is something that kind of surprised me a little bit in terms of him mentioning that in the press conference. I think he did that probably because a lot of Chelsea fans have gotten to Marc Cucurella's back, and sometimes like he said, we don't know what's going on outside of football. We just see him for 90 minutes and we slate him for it. But what was your thoughts? Obviously, a couple of questions in there, but what's your thoughts on obviously the injuries, Reece James, Chilwell coming back? Thankfully, they don't look like they're going to be in the squad for tomorrow, and also Marc Cucurella. Have we been a bit harsh on him in terms of the criticism based on what Graham Potter's come out and said today?
Yeah, having Reece James and Ben Chilwell back in training is a huge boost. And I think even Graham Potter mentioned it in his press conference that it seems to be a good buzz and vibe around training with the new kind of players that we've signed coming in, the players returning from injury. And hopefully that kind of adds to whatever momentum we try to build at the moment and contributes to the players performing on during our matches. I think I read as well that it's the first time since mid-September when Graham Potter first took over that we don't have a midweek fixture, something like that. Yeah. So this is an opportunity for players like Reece James, Ben Chilwell, Ruben Loftus-Cheek to get as much match fitness in training and be ready for those games that come on the weekends. But I think we both agree that we're not going to risk them at all tomorrow. As Chelsea fans, we don't want to see them even on the bench, and maybe keep them fit for the fixtures that maybe start of February. I think West Ham, another London derby is coming up soon in the start of February, and that's when I maybe start to look at playing Ben Chilwell and Reece James. In terms of Marc Cucurella, I've been very harsh on Marc Cucurella. I've been very critical of him. I think as football fans, it's almost normal to be critical when your players aren't performing. But what Graham Potter said in his press conference today does put things in perspective. These footballers are human beings. They've got wives, they've got kids, they've got families, and we don't know about that. We don't know what's happening in their private lives. So it's quite always, I feel a bit bad after when you hear these type of stories. We saw it with Kepa 3 or 4 seasons ago when he was having issues with his girlfriend. You could tell it was affecting his performances, his confidence. Chelsea fans were giving him a lot of stick on social media. I think he had to put his Instagram posts on private so he couldn't comment on them. Other players that we've seen at the moment really struggle with their life off the pitch. Jesse Lingard, Jadon Sancho as well. And for those who are watching the Netflix show at the moment, Breakpoint, the tennis documentary, there was a really brave female tennis player called Paula Badoza, and she came out saying that she struggles with anxiety, depression off the court, and shouldn't be seen as something that makes you feel weaker, but it should be seen as something that makes you more courageous to speak out about it. So should Marc Cucurella talk about whatever's happening in his private life? I respect that a lot, but it's good to see that Graham Potter's defending him, and I think maybe Chelsea fans should maybe be a bit less critical of him, and hopefully he comes out of this period a lot stronger for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And I've been one to criticize, and I think part of me still thinks, I know there's things that are going off the field as well, and I think it's harsh to just expect someone to crack on with and just carry on playing football. It's mad because you mentioned Jesse Lingard, and I watched his podcast episode today.
I've got that downloaded to watch it. Yeah,
it's a good watch. It is, you know, and I think I watched the documentary on Channel 4 or something before anyway. But you know, you can tell that he's been through a lot of stuff in the last 3 or 4 years, and you know, he comes out and he says a lot in there. I know it's with Chelsea podcast and all that stuff, but he goes and it talks a lot of stuff that, you know, you just wouldn't know. You know, and I remember the times when he was being heavily criticized by United fans, and I even mentioned it on the podcast, but there was a moment when I think he got onto the team bus and United fans, or I think it was City fans, he wasn't sure which ones, and they were literally coming up to the team bus and giving him abuse. So, you know, he says on there, you know, we're just human beings, you know, we're not we're not robots, we're not you know, we're not machines, we are just human beings, so things do affect us. And you know, I feel for me, it's like you said earlier when we spoke about it on WhatsApp, it's a tough one because I wouldn't put him on the bench, because I think as well there's criticism of him being on the bench when you've got an 18-year-old player that's just broke through into the senior squad who's taking your spot. It's mixed messages, you know, and it kind of it's open for interpretation. Why is he on the bench when you've got, you know, you just paid all this money for him? And I think this is where the question came from in the press conference. You know, is he suffering from something? Is he not adjusting? And you know, Graham Potter rightfully said, you know, players have dips in form, but he obviously backed that up with the on-field, off-field issues as well. But no, I mean, me personally, if it was me, I'd be saying I don't want to be in the squad. I don't want to be on the bench. I just take me out of the team. Take me out the limelight, I think, is probably, I feel like they've done that with Kepa for a bit. Maybe he was still on the bench, but I do remember when Kepa was going through a lot of stuff, and even Christensen, if you remember Christensen as well, there's a lot of stuff that, and I think Tuchel in the end had to come out and say, look, he's dealing with a lot of things mentally that we just don't know about, and we're just football fans, so we just see him for 90 minutes, or we see him, you know, coming out the team, line up at the 10 minutes before kickoff. So there's a lot that goes on, I think, in terms of football that we just don't really pick up on, I don't think.
No, definitely. I think, like you said, these footballers are human beings. They've got feelings, emotions that sometimes us fans, you know, we almost put to the side and we're not aware of. And I definitely think something that we should consider when we're critical, we voice our opinions on social media. But I do kind of agree, if Cucurella's his head's not with it mentally, maybe right now, maybe just put him out of the team so he's not in the limelight and bring him back in when he's ready. But to have him on the bench, it sends mixed signals. He's being benched by an 18-year-old. But like I said, I really do hope he comes back stronger, especially when he invested so much money into a player who's got quality. We saw it at Brighton last season, and we do want him to succeed. We don't really have a proper left back at the moment other than Ben Chilwell, who's very kind of prone to injury. So I really hope Cucurella does come back into the squad and succeeds.
I do as well, you know, and I think he will. I mean, there's been a lot of talk about him, and you know, I think maybe the best thing is that he's out of the team, on the bench or whatever. But you know, we're going to talk predictions and stuff. I think we've no better time to do that than now. I'm going to start with yours first, and I've managed to somehow, hopefully, get them so I can share them on the screen, which I think I can. Give me 1 second. You should be able to see your predicted lineup. Hopefully.
Yep.
This is yours.
Yeah.
Take
nice little design. Nice little design you put together there. I like it.
Slow morning. I got back into the swing Photoshop this morning, but just talk us through your lineup, because yeah, I mean, we sort of spoke about this, I think, yesterday or maybe this morning. I think it was late last night, but it's tricky because I think part of me thinks Graham Potter's going to go with the experience, and he's also going to go with a back five, which we'll get onto in a minute. But take me through yours. What do you think Graham Potter should or would do tomorrow?
Yeah, well, I think Kepa's a no-brainer. He was fantastic against Crystal Palace, pulled off some big saves, and obviously Mendy still got that wrist or hand injury. So I think Kepa will keep his spot as the keeper. Same back four that featured against Crystal Palace. You can't drop Thiago Silva despite his age in a game at Anfield. Badiashile, who I thought had a very solid debut against Palace, I think will remain in to pair Silva as the centre-back, and then Lewis Hall and Chalobah as my full-backs. Obviously, Chalobah as right-back. I'm still not over the moon about that, but we don't really have a choice, and I wouldn't risk playing Azpilicueta in a game like this. Midfield, Jorginho, Kovacic, I'd go with experience here, but also we do lack a bit of depth in midfield with all the injuries we currently have. And I do think bringing maybe Loftus-Cheek back. His first game from injury in a game like this, I wouldn't risk it. Mount, I know this is the one that maybe you disagree with me on, but I think it's a big game. We do know that sometimes in the big games he has performed, so I would start him. And then I would start Mudryk. I think I read that he hasn't played a lot of football at all recently, given that in Ukraine they had a winter break. So it will be, I think, his first game since maybe start of December or so. Big game as well to make your Chelsea debut in, away to Anfield. But I think he's ready. I'm really excited. I've seen a lot of video footage of him. I think he looks like a really bright player. I was reading that the Brighton manager, De Zerbi, who managed him at Shakhtar Donetsk, said that he's a future Ballon d'Or winner, which does make me a bit excited. I think him and Felix, there could be they're creating a bit of excitement amongst the Chelsea fans. And then my two other players being Ziyech and Havertz. Again, we do lack a bit of depth in these areas, and all players that aren't really in the best of form. I wouldn't really play Aubameyang. I think it's a big game to bring Datro Fofana in as well. So I think Havertz will retain his spot. And Ziyech, I didn't think he was solid against Palace. He was the one who put in the ball for the Havertz header. And I think this is a big game for him as well, to maybe send a message to Potter saying, listen, I'm here to stay for the season. I know there's talks of him leaving to, I think even Spurs, I read this morning, the swap deal with Bissouma. But I think it's a big game for him to prove that he's still got a part to play at Chelsea, at least till the end of the season. So I'd start him.
Yeah, I mean, I do think Mason Mount has a role to play in the game. And I agree with everything. Obviously, already, like sort of preempting, but already that I agree with that squad 100%. And I think it's difficult because part of me thinks Graham Potter's going to try and play it safe and go with the 3 centre-backs and the 2 wing-backs. My worry with that is I wouldn't want to see Lewis Hall as a wing-back. And I know you haven't got him here as a wing-back, but I just think in terms of what Graham Potter might do, he's trying to play it safe with 3 centre-backs. I hope he does, and I hope he goes with that back 4. I think, Lewis Hall warrants another start. I know Graham Potter said today in his press conference that he needs to manage and monitor how often Lewis Hall's playing. I think I can't remember if he came off. Did he come off against Palace?
I think he was substituted late in the second half, I believe.
He came off with like cramp or something in the leg, or maybe I'm thinking of Rico Lewis last night. It's been a bit of a wild week, but even Graham Potter coming out and saying, that he needs to monitor and manage the amount of time Lewis Hall's playing. Got to remember, he's only 18. He's playing in physical games, more intense games than he would be in the development squad in the Premier League 2. So it's a big step up for him, but he's doing well. And I think he did make a couple of mistakes against Crystal Palace, and I still put that down to, he's 18 years of age. He's in a big club, big expectations around him as well. So I hope he keeps his place. I wouldn't really want to see Cucurella coming in out of the cold after missing out on 2 games and coming into his big game at Anfield, hostile environment, or quiet environment, I should say. But yeah, I think, Lewis Hall warrants staying in that squad. And Chalobah, I'm with you. It's the lesser of 2 evils, isn't it? Because either you put Aspilicueta in there and he gets run ragged by Gapco, who I think will be on the left side for Liverpool. Thiago Silva, I mean, I can't believe we're still we should not be relying on Thiago Silva. Koulibaly should, as I've said on here before, Koulibaly should be the one that comes in and is the guy that is doing what Thiago Silva done when he first came into the squad and still just keeping everything together at the back. I'll show you mine, it already. But I agree 100% with that. The only one, as you say before, the difference I think is the Mason Mount switch. For me, I've gone for Carney Chukwuemeka, who I think, for me personally, would probably offer more going forward. And I think especially if we do start with Mudryk, who again Graham Potter sort of alluding to that he's ready to start, but he might not do 90 minutes, probably because of what you said around the break in the Ukrainian league as well. But I think the squad is solid. I think it's as solid as it can be in terms of the injuries that we've got, in terms of who potentially would be starting if we did have a fully fit squad. I agree with you around Hakim Ziyech. I think he's one player that when I watch him, he looks like he wants to get the ball in the box.
Yeah.
Now my only downfall, or the only downfall of that, is it takes Kai Havertz 1 in 10 to get it in the back of the net, or at least try and get it on target. So I think again, very similar to Chalobah. We are, you know, our backs against the wall. Who else can we put there? Do you really want to put Aubameyang in a team where I'm sure he hasn't scored since October, I think?
Yeah.
So, you know, we're going to expect him to go to Anfield and get a result for us. I don't see that. So, you know, I agree with you. I think Graham Potter will go with more experience. So I think we might not see Lewis Hall in the team. We might not see Chukwuemeka. I wouldn't be surprised if we see maybe Cucurella back at left back or as a left wing back if he plays the three centre backs. And I think you're right. I think, you know, Mason Mount will probably come into that team more central. And it's strange because obviously just before we came on, we were talking about Mason Mount, and I'm on the fence with him a little bit because I see performances and I think, just what do you offer? And I've come on here before and I've said that, but you know, there are a lot of games where he is played out of position, and you know, he might play on the right where Hakim Ziyech currently is on the screen at the moment, or he's playing just like a free role, or he's playing too deep. He's playing where, you know, Kovacic is sometimes, and he just hasn't really cemented himself as the role where Carney Chukwuemeka currently is in this squad. You said before there's been links with Mason Mount being almost spoken about as a Liverpool player already by the Liverpool fan base, but what do you think is going to happen with the contract? Because I mean, he was in talks very early on when Todd Boehly, I think, came in. Obviously, the two key contracts was Reece James and Mason Mount. They were the top things that I think. I'm sure Todd Boehly came out, or maybe someone came out and said that they want to get those signed off, and maybe or Jorginho Kante looks more likely to be Kante than Jorginho. Mason Mount seems to be holding out for either, I don't know, the right deal that suits him, which is probably the case, or he's got some sort of intentions to maybe move on somewhere else. More so now with these new signings coming in. What's your whole take on the Mason Mount thing? It's gone a bit quiet in terms of the contract talks, and it just seems like, is he holding out for a move?
I think as soon as you sign some new players, especially in the same position as a player like Mason Mount, it's going to create speculation and stories about him going to another club, and a player of his quality. I do think we haven't seen enough of it this season, but he does have it. He's always going to be linked to a big club like Liverpool, and I think he's currently on £75,000 a week, which I hate to say this, but given some of the other Chelsea players and what they're on, it's not a lot. I think Hudson-Odoi is on more money than him, and he's out on loan at the moment. Carney I can't say it. I still can't say it. Chukwuemeka. I'll get there. I will get there. I think he's on more money than Mason Mount as well. And obviously, I'm not in the dressing room, but I do think, a bit like employees in the workplace, it does create a bit of conflict in terms of, oh, he's earning more than me, but I'm doing more work than him, or I'm playing more than him. It's going to create it's always going to happen. And I think now he's holding off for a big new contract, probably double or triple on what he's on currently. I think Reece James got offered a new contract start of the season. He'll probably want to match his wages or something similar to that. I wouldn't be surprised. Personally, I want Mount to succeed. I don't want to see him in the Liverpool kits. He came through the academy. He's been at Chelsea since he was the age of 8, I think. I do want him to up his game, though, especially if he wants to kind of that money. Player like Reece James has probably earned it, especially how we've seen that, how we've played without him. Whereas Mount, I think we've seen that sometimes we can do without him, particularly this season. He's not as valuable as he used to be in the last couple of seasons, but I do think he deserves more than £75,000 a week. He's contributed a lot in the last few years. And as Chelsea fans, you just would hate to see a player like him go to one of your rivals, Liverpool as well. And they need a player like him currently in their team. I think they're going to have a big clear out in the summer. Keita, Fabinho, Milner. I think all the parts
still there as well.
Arthur, I forgot about him. I think they'll probably terminate his loan, or he won't sign permanently in the summer. But no, I think he needs to stay. But he also needs to kind of up his game this season as well.
Yeah, I think for me, it's difficult because I haven't seen enough of Mason Mount. You've just kind of took the words out of my mouth in terms of Reece James. You know, Reece James, when he plays, you know he's going to deliver. And with Mason Mount, you just don't know which Mason's going to turn up. Is it going to be the one that kind of goes missing, for 70% of the game, or is it going to be the Mason that scores you a goal that gets you the 3 points? It's one of them, and I think it's hard because I think he's got the sentiment of the Chelsea fans on his side, and like you just said, even, well, I mean, Liverpool's a bad example, but if he went to another club, I don't think I'll be disappointed, because I do want him to do really well. I want him to, if it's not at Chelsea, I want him to go and do that at another club apart from Liverpool or Arsenal, Spurs. But I want him to go somewhere and be able to feel comfortable playing, and I don't think he can do that in the Chelsea squad. I don't know if it's just a system thing where he's playing in the wrong system, or he's being played out of position, or I don't know. I really don't know, because this is, Mason Mount under Frank Lampard and other managers was brilliant. He was the one that you could see progressing the furthest out of the Callum Hudson-Odois and that kind of crop of players, and he just seems to have dropped down the pecking order, or just gone a bit. I don't know. Again, we just spoke about Cucurella and off-field issues. It could be something very similar, so we don't know. But in terms of the wages, I think it is, you don't want to turn up to work. If you're doing a job and someone sat next to you's doing the same job, but they're on 10 times more than you, it is a bit of a kick in the face. You should be getting paid what he deserves to get paid. And in line with all the other players that are coming up, like you just said, Carney Chukwuemeka is on more money than him. Some of these new signings, I know Mudryk, I don't think is, because of the type of deal that he's got, but he's probably coming from Shakhtar and is happy to take the wages that he's been given. But I don't see him going to Liverpool. I can't see him going to Liverpool. I don't think he would. I think if he was going to go somewhere, and it's going to sound horrible, I think he'd go to a Man United. I think he'd go to a club where...
Do you know what? He's one of those players, I've never actually thought of him going somewhere else than Chelsea. It's weird.
I know. And I think I can't remember if we spoke about it on here or we spoke on WhatsApp, but I think we said he's the sort of player, the type of player that will end up just retiring. He'll be a one-man club. But I don't know if it's these new owners as well. I don't know. And like I said, even listening to Jesse Lingard's story today, you could tell, I mean, I don't want to spoil it, but he tells a lot of stories on there that you kind of knew were happening at the club. But when someone at the club who's been there and has been around it in the walls can tell you from being there that what's happening is actually what we believe is happening. So it could just be that something isn't right in terms of the negotiations or the ownership. Maybe he's not happy with the change. I don't know. So if it means he's not here, and you're right, when you see the likes of Mudryk coming in, we signed someone else today. That's the name I can't pronounce.
Madueke.
Madueke. So we signed him today as well, or we were about to announce a signing very shortly.
We like our players with K's in their names, don't we?
Like, we just need nice names that I can pronounce. That's what we need instead of Chukwuemekas. But I think even the likes of Ziyech, Pulisic, they're on the way out. You see these players coming in, it's not good. It's not good at all. And obviously Sterling, I know there was talk he might move on, but and we've got, I'm sure we've sold players to Liverpool before. Or
Joe Cole. Joe Cole's gone there. Yeah.
It's not like it's unheard of. It's not like a Spurs thing where you don't. I know a couple. I think was it Cudicini ended up going there, I think, as well, to Spurs. But it's not like we've got that sort of weird relationship like we have with Spurs. We've got an okayish relationship in terms of.
I did see a list of players that have played for both Chelsea and Liverpool. I'm not sure. Obviously, there were clubs in between, but there are a fair few
as well.
Benayoun, Glenn Johnson, Raul Morelos, Torres. I have to remember Torres. A lot of them obviously went from Liverpool to Chelsea as well, particularly during that period before 2010 when Liverpool weren't as good as a club as Chelsea. But yeah, business does happen between those two clubs.
It'd be interesting. I don't think he'll go there, but at the same time as well, I don't know if is it a blessing if he does go? And I don't mean that because I don't want him to stay. And I think he's a really good player on his day, but I just think, does he really want to stay on an 8-year deal, which is probably a 7-year deal, which is what Todd Bowley seems to be? It's like his nice benchmark of contracts. Does he really want to stay for that long in a contract, or does he have another deal lined up already? Does he have something more lucrative on the table? So there's a lot of unanswered questions. I think I'm sure I read the other day that I think it might be March or April that they're going to start recommence talks with negotiations with contracts and stuff over the next couple of months. So I suppose we'll see from there. But back to tomorrow's game, we've sort of digressed. That was probably my fault. Anfield, tough ground to go to. We do need to win tomorrow. I know we got to win every game. It doesn't matter who you're playing, but I do feel if we don't win tomorrow, I mean, this is definitely the signs of completely forgetting about. I mean, there's a tiny hope of top 4 still. But I think if we lose tomorrow, I think it's all over. I think literally tomorrow will be the final day for me to say, right, we're definitely not getting top 4.
Yeah, no, I think we're seeing how Liverpool and Spurs dropping a lot of points, and it gives us a bit of hope. We're thinking, if we pick up some form and get points, and these teams continue to struggle, we may be able to break into the top 4. But yeah, it needs to start tomorrow. If you can snatch 3 points off one of your rivals that are also struggling for form and overtake them, get close to Spurs, who I think are only a 5 or they're not even that far off of us right now. I think it will give us a bit of hope. But yeah, tough ground to go to, Anfield. Like I said, I think the only time we won there recently was when it was an empty ground and Mount got the winner. And I can't remember the last time we won before then. I think it might have been 2014 when Gary Cahill and Diego Costa scored under Jose Mourinho. But I think, and like you said, it's hostile, but not so hostile at the moment as well, because Liverpool fans aren't really. It feels like a bit of a myth, the famous Anfield atmosphere. And I do think Liverpool fans are nervous at the moment. They are nervous. They're not playing the football that they used to under Jurgen Klopp. I think there's a bit of pressure on a lot of the players to perform. Some of their signings haven't really gelled in yet. I think Gakpo as well. The more it goes on, it might be similar to Darwin Núñez. There might be pressure on him to perform. Salah as well hasn't really, not having the season that he's used to, and a lot of injuries like us. I know we've got a lot more injuries than them, but some key players that you listed at the start of this episode are injured for them. So I think it's a must win. We said it's a lot, but this is probably the biggest win since the new year, in my opinion, more than the Fulham, Palace, City games. So yeah, that being said, I'll give my prediction and I'll let you give yours after. I think this game's got a draw written all over it. You're shaking your head. But
just because I've got to get the win. Being in Liverpool, I've got to get the win tomorrow. But when you say draw, we say 1-1, 2-2.
You look at those games last season; they were entertaining draws. They weren't just dull draws. They were draws that could have been a Liverpool win, a Chelsea win. It could have been a 3-3, 5-5 draw. But I'm going to go with 1-1. I think both teams are almost going to be. They might be comfortable to sit back a little, given that they'll be almost scared to really commit men forward. But I think it'll be entertaining nevertheless. I'm going to go with 1-1. Goal scorer. Let's go Mudryk on his debut.
I mean, why not? Just before I give my predictions, 22nd of July 2020, Liverpool, Chelsea. Can you remember the score?
5-3 Liverpool. Yeah.
Was that the pipe down? That was a pipe down. Lampard outburst.
Yeah. And he told him, you've won one trophy and you're giving it the big end was
giving it.
I didn't like that game, even though it was already pretty much destined for Liverpool to win the league. I think they'd already won it. It
was that COVID season, wasn't it? I think so. But my prediction, I think we will. I've been saying 2-1 all season. I'm going to nail it one weekend. So I'm going to stick with 2-1, only because I think we'll have the edge on Liverpool. And I think the fact that we've got signings coming in now, I'm expecting, hopefully, part of me doesn't think Mudryk will start, if I'm being totally 100% honest. I put him in my team, but I want him to start. I don't think he will. I think he'll probably play. Part of me thinks he'll play Havertz on the left and maybe Aubameyang down the middle.
Do you know what? I think we've completely forgotten about Gallagher as well in our lineups.
No, well, I purposely left him out because I think he'll be just a reckless player, just running around. Potentially might even get sent off very early into the second half. And it's a game we can't afford to be playing 10 men against Liverpool, because they'll just pick you apart regardless of their form. Sometimes teams like Liverpool, they play a team like Chelsea and they just pull it together. They just play really, really well. So I did look at him. I did think, Conor Gallagher, and I just thought I'd rather have Carney Chukwuemeka, who seems a bit more composed on the ball. It doesn't go in for like stupid challenges, and without checking who the referee is tomorrow, which doesn't even matter. But I just thought he's a good option off bench. I think actually, I don't think he's even on my bench, to be honest. But I'm going to go 2-1. I think Mudryk should start. I think he should be featured, and maybe you bring him off after 60, 70 minutes if, you know, you're 1-0, 2-0 up or whatever. I wouldn't like to see Mudryk come on and it's like 2-0 to Liverpool. I just think you're kind of throwing him into a game where it's pointless now because we won't score 3 goals. So yeah, if he starts, I think we win. I think Ziyech on the other side as well. Depending on who's in the middle, Mount or Chukwuemeka, doesn't really matter. But Havertz has to be hitting the target. I don't care whether he misses the goal or he makes the goalkeeper make a save, but he has to hit the target. He has to be doing better with some of these crosses that Ziyech is putting in the box for him. And Chalobah as well is a bit of a worry at right back. Again, Lewis Hall kind of leaves us very sort of weak in defence, and you know, Trent on his day, you know, we talk about him defensively, but offensively, we know that he's good. You know, he's good to get that ball in the box to the Liverpool attackers. So it's going to be a tough game, even if it's a draw. Like you said, I think it's going to be entertaining either way. So I'm going 2-1. You're going 1-1. Our predicted lineups are on Twitter and Instagram as well, so you can see the socials down there. If you didn't check them out before, make sure you do that before tomorrow's game. Make sure you also smash the subscribe button and the like button, and let us know your thoughts as well in the comments about the selections that you would start with tomorrow, before obviously 12:30 before the game kicks off. Theo, as always, thank you very much for joining me at this late hour on a Friday. It's been a pleasure as always. And yeah, let's hope for 3 points. We definitely need them, and we'll be back next week with our usual podcast as well, so make sure you check that out. Until next time, let's hope we get 3 points and see you guys next week. Thanks for watching.